Is this Australia's worst criminal that you've never heard of? This is Neville Tween. He's also been known by heaps of other names, like Neville Bryan Byrne, Neville Bryan Fraser, Neville Bryan Tiffin, John Andrews, Neville Bryan Anderson, John David Anderson. He's got more than 100 charges, spanning more than 50 years. There's everything from break and enter, assaulting a police officer, possession of firearms and explosives, escaping jail, drug charges, safe breaking, and a shocking sexual assault. There's even bribery, fraud, and pretty weird things like possessing false wigs and beards. And then there's the crimes of which he was suspected but never charged, like the killings of up to 3 people whose murders have never been solved. One of those is the suspected murder of Trudie Adams, who disappeared without a trace in 1978. On top of that, a number of women identified Tween as their rapist in a series of assaults on the northern beaches in the late 1970s. Those assaults all followed a pretty similar formula. Young women going home on or near Barrenjoey Road were picked up by 2 men wearing disguises. They were blindfolded, handcuffed, taken into the bush, and brutally raped. Sometimes Polaroid photos were taken of the assaults before the women were dropped home. But even though Tween was a suspect for those assaults, he wasn't even interviewed about them for decades. But Neville Tween did do time for at least one brutal sexual assault on the northern beaches in 1975. Tween and an associate took a 19-year-old man who'd ripped him off in a drug deal into the bush. They made him dig his own grave, shot bullets at him, and sexually assaulted him. They documented the terrifying assault with Polaroid photos. Tween went to jail for 6 months for the attack. For the rest of his life, Tween continued a life of crime. In 2013, Neville Tween died in jail, while the mystery of Trudie Adams' death remained unsolved. I've been investigating this dark underbelly of the northern beaches in the 70s and Tween's life in the decades that followed. And what I've found was an alarmingly close connection between Neville Tween and a corrupt cop. It turns out that in the 90s, Tween became very close to former New South Wales Crime Commission investigator Mark Standen. I've been told that Tween, then retired, had become an informant for Standen. They even socialised together while living on the Central Coast. I've uncovered new documents which reveal Tween was in business with one of Mark Standen's close relatives. Together, they ran a lingerie home business. In 2008, a detective was looking into the cold case murder of a drug dealer in 1985, where Tween was a suspect. He found a link between that case and Trudie Adams' disappearance. After telling Mark Standen about his investigation into Tween, the detective says Standen stalled in helping out. I put the claims to Mark Standen this year. He insisted there wasn't anything wrong with his relationship with Tween. We may never know the true nature of their relationship, or if it could have protected Tween from being questioned about horrific crimes. But isn't it worth asking why authorities never fully investigated the connection between a powerful law enforcement officer and one of Australia's most prolific criminals?